What's going on, everybody? Back here with another episode of the Flipping the Bird podcast. I'm your host, Luke Lawhorn, the sports editor here at the Paisano UTSA student newspaper. Man, it feels great outside, so we're doing this episode in the back porch of the Paisano office here with my main guys, as always, Connor and Rylan. How are you guys doing today?
Man, I tell you what, the weather's finally cooling down. It's a beautiful day out here, and I'm ready to talk about some sports with y'all. Let's get it.
Yeah, the weather's got me in a great mood, just ready to talk some ball.
Man, the sun, it just makes me feel some type of way. I'm ready to dive in, and to enhance my good mood, we're going to talk about some UTSA football with this first subject of the day. As we all left here with our last episode, we were all pretty confident UTSA would win, but we were pretty sure it was going to be a close game, down to the wire, but no, it was quite the contrary. UTSA won on Saturday night 41-20 over UAB in the Alamo Dome. UTSA got off to a hot start, scored the first 2 touchdowns, and just went on and coasted pretty much the rest of the game. Frank Harris looked good, 19 of 30 for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Of course, I was not at the game. I was at home, being very productive, doing a bunch of productive things. But Rylan, our main man, our beat writer for the UTSA football team, was right there front and center in the press box. Rylan, what did you see Saturday night?
It was the first complete football game from UTSA that we saw this year, and kind of knew it was going to be that way coming out the rip. The offense was driving the ball with relative ease, and you saw Robert Henry hit a crazy hurdle, and then just on a couple plays later, run it in from 19 yards out to score. And then on defense, you see on the first possession, Trey Moore strip sack Jacob Zeno. That led to points for UTSA, and that theme continued for the rest of the night. Just the offense clicking throughout the game, the defense holding tight against a good UAB offense. And, this was supposed to be a higher scoring game, something closer, but it just turned out to be a dominant win for UTSA against a good UAB team. And that's really, that's nice to see from UTSA. We hadn't seen it all season, so it makes me feel a lot better about going for it.
Man, I be telling y'all about Robert Henry, man. I've been talking about him the whole season. That boy is cold with it. That hurdle was something else. I mean, he had 9 carries for 99 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty good. Kavorian Barnes had 2 TDs as well. Like I said, I think UTSA's got a 3-headed monster running back. I know Rocco Griffin, I don't think he had any carries that game, but yeah, he was out. But it's still a lot of production there. Like you said, it was honestly a pretty complete game. I thought it was going to be a lot closer than what it was. I'm surprised because I think UAB is pretty good despite their record. I think it's always a tough test playing them. So I'm just very happy that the defense honestly improved as well. Like, that was a big question mark for me. Can defense actually step up? They have been. Trey Moore, he had 3.5 sacks that game. He's a dog. I mean, it's just nice to see a complete performance finally, I guess at the right time.
I mean, I don't know if I can go as far as y'all in saying UAB was a good team, but I'd be lying because I was very skeptical of this game. I kind of hinted we'd lose at it. But now looking at this, I mean, UAB is kind of bad. They played Georgia Southern and lost 49-35, and then lost to Louisiana, not Louisiana State University, just Louisiana, 41-21. Beat NC-A&T. I don't even know what that is. But no, it was a good win. It was a good win because it was needed. And it was a great momentum win for this next tough of schedules because they closed with Tulane, who, by the way, they did beat UAB, but it was only by 10 points, like 35-25, something like that. So now a lot more confident to play that game. But we play FAU, East Carolina, North Texas, who could be comp, but then Rice and South Florida before that Tulane game. I don't know, Rylan. I think this is that win is a great momentum push for these next, 5 games.
And one of the things that I was like, okay, this is UTSA has arrived, is when I saw Frank Harris take off and take a huge shot. And what did he do? He popped right back up and signaled first down. I was like, okay, this team's moving with some confidence. This team can win this conference. And yeah, it's an easy slate. Oh, it's a not as challenging slate as what we've faced in the past.
No, that ain't easy. Easy.
Okay, it's an easy slate going forward up until you get to that Tulane game. But so yeah, I mean, the expectation right now should be that we at least win out up until that Tulane game, and that one would be a challenge. And even if we lose that, I would say we play them in the championship game right after, anyways, right?
Right. So help remind me. Last week I asked everybody what they thought the weakness of the UTSA team was, and you said O line,
I said defensive line.
defensive line. How did you think that looked on Saturday?
Oh, it looked a lot better, and you could tell. They got the 2 interceptions. The intercept we hadn't intercepted the ball before up until this game. We got the fumble against Temple, but we had intercepted the ball, and I think that was a product of the defensive line finally stepping up. We knew we had Trey Moore, and obviously Trey Moore showed his dominance on Saturday. But we started to see plays from other guys. Jamoy Robinson, Brandon Madison was getting in there, and we saw some blitzes from Rashad Wisdom got a sack. So it was more creative and getting the pressures up, and the defensive line also stepped up, and that's why you can see the turnover.
Yeah, and Jeff Traylor is just such a good coach.
Right.
I saw this game note from Javi Cardenas from Rival, so shout out to him. He said, per the UTSA game notes, UTSA is 24-3 in conference games under Jeff Traylor. That includes a current 10-game conference game winning streak, obviously including the Conference USA. But that is just so encouraging. Like, this dude is actually a legitimately good coach that we have here in San Antonio. Sticking in San Antonio, before we talk about any other subjects, I see Connor switching up the gear again. He's gone from Cowboys merch to Texas merch to Rangers merch, and we'll get into the Rangers here in a minute just because we got to speak on that. But now you're in a Spurs jersey. Is that a Wembanyama jersey?
You already know it.
Okay. Let's talk about some Spurs real quick. Not too much, but last week, they played their first preseason games. They lose a nail-biter to Oklahoma City, which, by the way, Chet Wemby, that's a future KD Braun. I can't say I'm calling it now because I just think everybody can see that, Doesn't take anything special to point that out. But that game against Miami, or really in all these games, but especially that Miami game, Wemby is literally dribbling at 7'5", pulling up, taking step back threes, and he is swishing them. So Connor, I'm not sure how much Spurs ball you've seen. It's only been the preseason, but through any clips or whatever you've seen from Wemby, what can you say so far?
Yeah, I was actually watching that game. I was on Friday night against the Heat, and I watched the game yesterday against Houston. Yeah, the game on Friday, though, I mean, you could just tell. I saw a viral clip, I'm sure y'all have seen it, of Thomas Bryant on the Heat after Wemby just dunks on him.
Just looked like, I saw a tweet that said he was looking like he was part of The Office, like looking at the camera.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you do when you got a guy that big, be that athletic? Like, he looks the real deal. I know it's preseason. I know we can't, get too excited. But from what I've seen of him so far, either when he was in France or just so far in the limited action now, he looks like the real deal. I'm extremely excited. And honestly, I know the Heat had a lot of guys out, but the Spurs look pretty good. I mean, Sohan looked like, he's solid. Devin Vassell, 21 points. Obviously, Wembanyama had 23. He led the team that night. I'm just very excited. I'm just ready for the regular season to start, man. It's going to be a good one.
Well, they haven't gotten blown out yet. I mean, they did lose to the Rockets last night, but yeah, they're definitely young and exciting. So, Rylan, same to you. What do you think so far on Wemby's performance?
Oh, it's everything we could have dreamed of, right? There was a little concern after that first summer league game. Could he translate to the toughness of the NBA? But ever since then, man, he showed it, right? And I think that's going to continue to show into the regular season. And this Spurs team has a lot of potential, right? You got a lot of young guys. Some that you're just waiting for them to take that next step into stardom. And once that happens, I mean, this is going to be a playoff team for the next 5 to 10 years, especially with Wemby only getting better as he continues to get experience.
And it's tough to gauge players' opinions or stats just on the preseason or really in the NBA at all until, February. But who always can tell it like it is, regardless of coaches, the smart people. And I was looking at the quotes from Friday's game, which unfortunately I had to miss again because I was being very productive. But I will be there for tomorrow's game against Houston Wednesday. But both Eric Spoelstra and Greg Popovich, who everyone might argue might be the 1 and 2 best coach in the NBA, at least 2 of the top 3 or 4, no doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
After the game, Eric Spoelstra said, "You don't really see that every night, that's for sure. I was just as curious, and I had the anticipation factor just to see what he actually looks like on the floor. That's different for sure. All the hype and everything, it seems to be real." Of course, I put that in my article this week, so please check that out on the Paisano website. Had to plug that little tag in there. But yeah, and then Greg Popovich continues. He's obviously a gifted player who's very humbling to find his place. And he goes on to say, we have to make sure that we blend that with everything else we have. So now it looks like, this 19-year-old kid coming from France is now already the centerpiece around our whole organization, which, I mean, is obviously expected, especially when you have that much hype. But it's just kind of crazy to think about, having that much hype coming from another country to, this team who's now the coach who might be one of the GOATs, greatest ever, is saying, okay, we're running everything around him now.
Right. And it's really, really, I can't, just say enough about how impressive it is that he's handling this transition. Like you said, he's a 19-year-old kid coming from a different country. And when he first got here, I mean, you saw the media circus, Britney Spears, you're slapping Britney Spears.
I forgot. I already forgot about that. That is crazy.
You had
that felt so long ago.
Right. And then the interviews, everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants to take pictures, wants to see what you're doing. And he's just been nothing but poise, straight calmness, and he's handled it with grace. And it's starting to, manifest onto the court. He's balling out. It's what we want to see. And right now, I think that Wemby's a complete package, and I think he represents everything that the Spurs organization wants to represent.
Absolutely, which is everything they could ask for from a Spurs player. Hopefully, we see this continue in the regular season with the others, because I've seen them saying quotes after the game, and it's real because we see it. All the attention that Wembanyama brings in the paint, he's able to dish out to open shooters such as, Devin Vassell, who was pretty great against Miami in that last Friday game. Haven't seen much from Keldon Johnson yet, but, already pretty skeptical on how long they'll keep him. And now they have Jeremy Sohan, talking about being point guard for the team, which I don't know. Connor, do you think that Jeremy Sohan would be a pretty good point guard for the Spurs?
Man, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work. I mean, to be honest, he's got pretty good ball handling skills. He's pretty good at finding open passes. Yeah. But I would prefer him kind of more as a forward. I don't really see him in the backcourt. But maybe Coach Pop's got something planned, got something special. He's a genius. He's a mastermind. So it remains to be seen. But I would kind of like to see it a little more, though, just experiment with it a little bit, because it is very interesting that he's kind of looking at it. But, I guess if guys like Giannis and LeBron can play point guard, I guess anyone can play point guard. So.
And what's kind of weird, so this, I'm pretty sure this will be the Spurs stars. Well, from Victor Wembanyama to Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and Zach Collins, who they've been very high on these last several months. And even the tail end of last year was getting some starts after basically being injured for 2 seasons, after leaving, Portland, went to the Western Conference Finals. Very high on him, so he's going to be the starter. So now if you have both Victor Wembanyama, you have Zach Collins, I mean, that kind of seems like your 4 and 5, right? Mm-hmm. And then KJ, Vassell, that's, So now you got Jeremy Sohan, who is not going to come off the bench.
Right.
So I guess, the best role for him is to be the point guard. What do you think, Rylan?
Oh,
I mean, basketball's positionless, too.
Right. So, I mean, we'll just see it when we see it. You never know until you try it out, and we'll see how that works in the regular season. And I'm fairly confident that it will work. But if not, we'll make our changes. We'll adjust. We have one of the greatest coaches of all time, so I have full confidence in whatever decision they make in that area.
Absolutely. So back to Connor. We'll get away from the Spurs here. We'll go to his other team. We'll go to the Dallas Cowboys, who did play last night in Monday Night Football. They came out after losing, 42-10 against the 49ers. Everybody's shaming them, saying the season's already over. After saying they already won the Super Bowl after those first couple of weeks. They rebound against the Chargers last night. They win 20-17. Last week, when we were in here, we were debating, whether the Cowboys season's over or were they fraudulent. But after Monday Night Football, Connor, do you think that the Cowboys are back? Was the 49ers game just a fluke?
I wouldn't say they're back, but I think it's definitely a sign of improvement. Obviously, I've been saying this. They need to give Dak more freedom. Look what happened yesterday when he actually was able to run the ball a little bit. He's very productive. I think he's good when he moves around. I don't know if it's just the new offense kind of maybe restricting him, or just it's him maybe kind of thinking, because obviously he's had injuries and stuff like that. But he had a rushing touchdown yesterday. He was able to move around a little bit, kind of be productive. He found CD Lamb a lot, which they need to keep doing that, because CD Lamb, when they find him open, he's one of the best receivers in the league. defensively, we know what we're going to get with the Cowboys. They look pretty good. Justin Herbert was kind of, he didn't really look comfortable at all yesterday.
We'll definitely speak on him in a moment.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, honestly, they're not back, but it's a sign of improvement from obviously the calamity against San Francisco.
Yeah, it was a good win because the Chargers are a good team, but it also did take one of the worst Justin Herbert performances that we've seen since he's been in the league, which helps, right? But no, Dak looked a lot better when I checked the score and saw that he had an 18-yard rushing touchdown. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was like Peyton Manning 18-yard rushing touchdown. So that was good that they got him moving around, get some more confidence because you could tell ever since he broke his ankle, he hasn't been moving like he did before that injury. So regardless, good tough win against a good tough opponent, getting it done on the road in a whatever SoFi Stadium with their fake fans and all that.
Total fake fans, by the way. Total fake fans.
The industry planted fan that they kept cutting to every time.
Yeah, that beautiful woman who they kept showing on TV is definitely not a real Chargers fan. But anyway.
Yeah. But to do it, a win in the league is impressive as it is. But to do it against that type of team that has playoff Super Bowl aspirations was good for the Dallas Cowboys.
The Chargers are such a fraudulent team. That is my takeaway. When Justin Herbert came in to the league, I was already pretty shaky about how highly they were praising him while at Oregon because I know you can't take too much into college, but I believe I have some sort of foresight, and I could just foresee all of this happening. He came in the league already, oh man, is he one of the, he's a fringe superstar already his rookie year.
Right.
But he's literally stayed at that exact level 3 years later now, or 4 years later, whatever he's in, 4 seasons later. And I'm just wondering we all expected him to take that next step. The Chargers did make the playoffs last year, lost obviously in,
awful
embarrassing fashion. Yeah, awful. So this year, they're already 2-3. They have yet to play the Chiefs yet, which by the way is their next game. They play the Chiefs in a Sunday game. They play the Bears, the Jets, but now the Lions, I will hint at the Lions in a bit, and then the Ravens. They have a pretty, they play the Bills. That's not an easy schedule, and they're already fumbling. The Dallas is a good game.
Right.
That's a good team to play. It was a good win, or it's a loss, of course, but that's a good team. They held close, but I don't know. I don't know, Rylan. I am not on the Chargers bandwagon at all.
So you think that Herbert is a fringe superstar? You don't think he's a superstar? Where would you rank him in your quarterbacks?
So I would for sure have Patrick Mahomes 1.
Uh-huh.
I'll go. Burrow hasn't played like it this year, but I'll still put him 2.
Okay.
I'll put Trevor Lawrence there.
Okay.
I'll put Josh Allen. That's 4. I'll put Lamar 5.
Uh-huh.
How sacred is the word superstar? So I'm already at 5. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody. I'd put Tua. I'd put Tua up there. That's 6.
You put
Jalen
Tua, but are
Hurts.
you taking Tua and Hurts over Herbert?
I might. Really?
Well, okay. Herbert has one of the worst coaches in the NFL already. He's got 40-year-old Keenan Allen, who's still making plays. But he's older, and he's got Quentin Johnston's seen like 5 snaps all year. He's already looking like a bust. And so they're running out there with Joshua Palmer.
Shout out to Quentin Johnston, man. Hometown hero.
Right? And they're running out Joshua Palmer. Eckler's in and out the lineup, always having contract disputes. So I would put him above, can you imagine Justin Herbert with Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, Jalen Waddle?
Man, every time I talk about
I
Justin
know,
Herbert,
I
it gets
know,
described
I know.
as, he's Tom Brady every time.
Because I think he genuinely has that. And I don't blame the Chargers being underwhelming on him. I just think that's just the coach and the organization.
Maybe we can argue that for years past, but last night he looked bad.
Yeah, no,
last
night he was
Let me get to Dallas. That was a big win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I could sit here all day and talk about how, bad the Chargers are, how disappointing they've been. But to win that game, especially with some notable upcoming games such as the Eagles and then the Seahawks, the Eagles again, the Bills, Dolphins, you need wins like this.
Yeah.
And it helps me out. I'm a Bengals fan, of course. I want the Chargers to lose. Hopes the AFC conference. So good win for the Cowboys. Dak, looking at it, throwing for all that, and was the Cowboys' leading rusher. So absolutely no hope to Tony Pollard or Michael Gallup, by the way.
Yeah.
Who looked terrible last night. Dropped a wide open touchdown pass. Man, but this NFC playoff race is kind of heating up before the year.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of, Cowboys, 49ers, Eagles, and that was it. That's a gap. But the Seahawks, despite their loss, who we'll touch on, and the Lions, who for me is my sneaky, number one overall seed because that schedule is easy. Their hardest game on the schedule was the Chiefs in week 1, and they've won it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of their number one seed to lose, Rylan. So right now, I would have it as Detroit. I would have 49ers. Then I'll have Eagles. I'll have the Seahawks and the Cowboys as my top 5 teams in the NFC race. As of right now, 5-6 games in, how would you kind of evaluate those 5 teams?
Well, right now, I think it's, the Lions are impressive, right? But I just think the 49ers are too dominant. Even with their loss, which really should have been a win because were in field goal range at the end to win it. Yeah, it was a rough, scrappy game on the road against a good defense, and they almost came out with it. So I think it's still the 49ers on top. I do like the Lions. The Lions are good. They have a good offensive line. They have good weapons. They got Jameson Williams back, who scored a 45-yard touchdown.
And was on my bench in fantasy.
Right. And so they look good. The Eagles looked bad against the Jets team who has Zach Wilson because Zach Wilson is awful. So to lose to that team as a top NFC contender is pretty embarrassing. But yes, it's 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys, Lions, and then Seahawks for my top view.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Connor? What are you thinking with that top 5? And by the way, I mean, hey, the Jets have beaten some solid teams. They beat the Eagles, a couple of days ago. They were close against Kansas City over there, hating on Zachy Wilson. Yeah, the Bills. Come on now. All right, Connor.
Just speaking on the Jets, I saw something today. Their defense has not given up a touchdown in the second half of any game this season.
Okay.
Win the game.
Yeah. But in terms of the NFC, I'm going to go Lions number 1 right now. I go 49ers very close to. I think the loss was bad, but I know they had injuries, so, it is what it is. Number 3, I'll go Eagles as much as it pains me. I'm still going to go Cowboys at 4, and I'll go Seahawks at 5.
Okay.
I gotta do the Cowboys at 4 just because from what I've seen of them, I think they are slightly better than the Seahawks.
Okay. Really?
But it's very close.
Okay. Do either of y'all, or would either of y'all say we're leaving a 6-team out, or would you all agree that it's that top 5 competing? And because I'm not counting the NFC South champion.
No,
so none of them. I'm not counting. If a second team gets in and the NFC North,
right? Maybe
a third team, Washington gets in from the East, a third team,
or like the Rams, maybe.
Yeah. So I would only say the Rams just because, for whatever reason, if they were to sneak in the playoffs and to play Seattle, for some reason, I feel like
they would beat us. That would
be your worst nightmare.
I would cry because I just know it'd be we're getting dashed by Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, and just Sean McVay scheming up some
system players.
Some crazy stuff like that. Just I don't want to see any NFC West team in the playoffs, truthfully,
except for
the Cardinals.
The Cardinals, of course. So let's stick to another NFC West team. Your team, Seattle Seahawks. My hometown team, by the way, was born in Seattle.
Really?
I was.
Huh.
I was. Yeah.
Know that.
Born and raised for 3 years before moving. So they played the Bengals. They lose 17-13. Big win for my team.
Mm-hmm.
Much needed. If anyone's listening and follows me on Twitter, I posted a really cool photo of myself celebrating the victory against the Seahawks. So Rylan, you also have the mic in your hand. This is your team.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that loss? And, will this affect the Seahawks season?
It will affect the Seahawks season, but not as large as a lot of people think. Coming into the season, I didn't have us winning this game anyways. But you would like to seeing how the Bengals were struggling up until that point. But outside of the first 30 minutes following the game, I'm completely fine with it. We had every chance in the world to win it, and we just look like a team that's missing their all-pro right tackle, and that's just the truth. We Geno Smith was pressured almost every time he dropped back. Couldn't hold up against that sneaky good Bengals defensive line with Sam
Sneaky
Hubbard,
good.
and Trey Hendrickson, DJ Reader, all of them. So I mean, yeah, we just missed out on a couple things. We were moving the ball like butter up until we got into the red zone. We had DK open for a wide open touchdown. We had JSN open for a wide open touchdown. Just missed opportunities, stuff that I think that's easily fixable, and I think that Pete Carroll will address. Bengals are a good team. Can't give them free stuff, and that's what we did, so we lost.
Okay, question: is Geno Smith a top 10 quarterback?
He is a top 10 quarterback, and he will be. Throughout the
so he
rest
didn't
of the
play
season.
himself out of top 10.
No, it was his worst game as a Seahawk, and if your worst game as a Seahawk allows you to only lose by 4 to a team that was in the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship the past 2 years, I can live with that. Russell Wilson's worst game as a Seahawk was worse than Geno Smith's worst game as a Seahawk.
Really?
Yeah.
So you legitimately think this is Geno Smith's worst game as a Seahawk?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. I don't have the stats, so I
multiple. He had 2. I think he had like 2 interceptions. Took a bunch of sacks, holding onto the ball. Just didn't look good or comfortable, which is fair. He hasn't had his starting offensive line all year since the opener.
So let me focus on the Bengals here real quick.
Okay.
They play in the hardest division in the NFL, by the way.
Really?
They do. I don't know one better. I'm looking here at the standings. One, I saw this stat, so it's a fact. There's not another division in the NFL where all 4 teams are 500 and above, because every other division has either a 1-loss team, a winless team, and the AFC South. The Titans have a 2-4 Titans team. But the AFC North, the Bengals are the worst team in the division record-wise, and they are 3-3. Because the Browns are 3-2, and they might have a top 3 defense in the NFL. They probably do. The Steelers are 3-2. They're fraudulent. They'll fall. But Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season, so they'll be tough. And Bengals have yet to play them, and they always split. And then the Ravens, who are 4-2, are a sneaky top team in the NFL because they thrashed that Browns defense
with a lot of injuries too.
A lot of injuries. Lamar's been playing pretty great outside of his last game, or 2 weeks ago, whenever they lost to the Colts. So that's the one thing. And we're messing around losing games to the Titans in the 4th week of the season when the Ravens handle them, which, by the way, we got blown out by them. So the Bengals are such a weird team.
Right.
Getting blown out by the Browns. They lose a nail-biter by 3, 27-24 to the Ravens, and they get crushed by the Titans. What was it, 27-3?
Yeah, something like that.
That is terrible. So, but before we move on from the division, did you have a problem with me saying the AFC North was the toughest?
I would say I think the AFC West is up there too.
Really?
Anytime you're playing Patrick Mahomes twice a year,
I would sign up to play the Broncos and Raiders twice a year every year if I could. Because, I mean, obviously I don't want to play Mahomes every year. You can almost chalk that up as 0-2.
Right.
But I can be like, okay, well, I'm going to go 4-2 in the division. But you look at this AFC North, we're hoping we go 500. We're hoping we go 3-3 in these 6 games.
That's fair. It's more evenly spread out.
We're already 0-2, so we play 4 more games. This next 6-game stretch of us will define our season. We have a pretty tough schedule. It kind of softens up at the end. I know we play the Chiefs in the 2nd or 3rd of last week, but I'm going to tell you our next 6 games, okay? And that's why it was a big win to beat Seattle, because if we lost, we were done. We now go into our bye week, 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
We come out and we play San Francisco, Buffalo, the Texans, and that's not easy anymore. No. We play at Baltimore, so our division rival game, Thursday Night Football, home against the Steelers, at Jacksonville for Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
So we're playing we're playing 3 different division winners and 2 of our division rivals, plus CJ Stroud and that Texans team who's kind of rolling. They're 3-3 as well. So, winning that game is great. We're 500.
Mm-hmm.
We have to split between the 49ers and Bills. Basically, what I'm trying to say about the 6-game stretch, we have to go 4-2. If we go 3-3, then
it's over.
But if we go 4-2, we're 7-5. And then the last bit of our schedule is the Colts, Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, Browns.
Yeah.
We could try to split with the Browns, clean it up with the Steelers, and then Vikings, Colts. That should be there. That should be our gimmies, if you will. So, I don't know. I still have hope we can go to the playoffs. I don't know. Rylan, do you think the playoff hopes for the Bengals are over?
No, I don't think they're over. I think, it's a very defining stretch that you're about to go on, right? If you
Yes.
can't beat those teams, you don't even want to be in the playoffs because you have no chance, right?
Yeah, we don't want to.
So no, I think you'll be good. You'll see as Joe Burrow starts to get a little more healthy, a little more comfortable. T. Higgins starts to get a little more healthy, a little more comfortable. I think you'll start to see them take some of them games out the way.
So in that 6-game stretch, 49ers, Bills, Texans, Ravens, Steelers, Jags. What do you have us going?
Have you beaten the Bills? Have you beaten the Jags? Have you beaten the Texans? And have you beaten Baltimore?
4. So we lose to the Steelers and Niners?
Yeah.
That's pretty solid. I would take that. That Baltimore game scares me. It's that 7:15 p.m.
Oh, yeah, prime
in
time.
Baltimore. Please cannot lose in that game. So,
and one more thing that will affect the divisions and mostly Connor's team. It's actually kind of breaking news, not really breaking news, but the Eagles did just sign Julio Jones. So that's going to be interesting to see how they work him into that.
How long ago was that?
That was 39 minutes ago. I wanted to say when I first saw it, but
39 minutes ago. Breaking news on the pod. Rylan. Okay. So Julio Jones
is now an Eagle.
Can you explain that again? Is there any more details?
So no, it seems like a 1-year deal, just bringing him extra depth to pair him up with.
Was he still on Tampa?
No, he was a free agent. He just didn't play at all.
So he's now in Philadelphia.
He's now the third option in Philadelphia.
Interesting. Well, first, this is initial reaction by me, your sports editor. I feel like, dude, he could not get on the field in Tampa.
Mm-mm.
Like, poor Brady. I was really rooting for him his last year. And Julio Jones was not able to get on the field these last 2-3 years, which is a shame because
with the Titans too.
Everyone forgets, but there was a solid, from 2015 or 16, that Super Bowl year, the year before and after, he was a no doubt top 2. Like, it was him and D-Hop 1 and 2, and now nobody knows. So, Connor, let's focus on your rival here, the Eagles, who did just lose. By the way, who do they lose to again? Help me out. The Jets. Yeah, man, the Jets, man. That's what I said. Zach Wilson on fire. Anyway, Jets, they reload, they upgrade at receiver on top of already having, I don't know, maybe the best duo in the league with A.J. Brown and, help me out here, Devontae Smith. So now with this addition, how does this make you feel as a Cowboys fan?
Honestly, it adds more depth to the receiving core, but it's not really I don't think it really affects anything. I think if they're going to hurt you, they're going to hurt you with Brown, Smith, Goddard, DeAndre Swift. I don't know, honestly. I don't think it affects too much. Obviously, Julio Jones is one of the great receivers of all time, but can he still do it at a top level? I don't know. He had a tough time, like you said, getting on the field in Tampa Bay. So I really don't think it affects too much, but it does add more depth. So they do have a pretty decent receiving core. But I don't think it affects too much.
Rylan, instant reactions?
I think he could be sneaky. I think he could be real sneaky. Because, yes, he's older. Yes, he's not as explosive as he was. But, he's had, however many months to take off from being a part of a football team, allow himself to recover, kind of get that desire to play again. And you're joining a team that's a Super Bowl contender. So they might get some sneaky production out of him, kind of like Tampa Bay got Antonio Brown when they picked him up.
Yeah, I can kind of see it now. Philadelphia's the 2 seed because I think Detroit's going to lock up that 1. We could probably we'll put the 49ers as the 2 seed. We'll put Eagles as the 3 seed. I don't know. We'll pick Seattle as a 6 seed. I can already see it in that first round of the playoffs. Julio Jones burning by one of those young,
would never happen.
Immature. They're young. They're young, right? They'll be there, burning past one of them for a touchdown. So it was great to get out here in this beautiful weather, talk about some football. We will have another episode this week where we'll talk about some upcoming games on, Saturday, Sunday, big college football games. UTSA is playing. We'll see, how the Cowboys, they're heading to their bye, right? So we'll talk about, how they should look coming out of that. We'll talk about the Spurs, what they do in tomorrow's preseason game against Houston. Great for y'all to come out here. Love talking ball with y'all. We'll be back, I don't know, Thursday or Friday. To our viewers, thank you for listening. If you're not already, please hit that subscribe button. We try to get out here once to twice a week, talk some ball. Please stay updated with us and check our articles. Pretty good articles on the website. So again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you at the end of the week.